words and phrases. As every grammar teacher will tell us, they carry meaning, their denotations, and they carry baggage, their connotations. Lockdown, social distancing, community transmission. These words and phrases have entered our daily conversation, and depending on their connotations for you, they can cause anxiety, dread, and depression. Return to work always had its connotations, but COVID-19 has given it a whole new meaning. A submicroscopic parasite has turned our nation on its head, threatening our physical and mental health. Mental health. There's a phrase that can be shackled by connotations. Ireland has a difficult history with mental health. The 2018 OECD report tells us that we have the third highest rate of mental illness in Europe, with over 18% of our population having a mental health disorder, if we include addictions. The Healthy Ireland survey in 2015 indicated that about 9% of the population reported psychological distress to the point of having a probable mental health problem. The prevalence of a probable mental health problem was 2-to-1 women to men, except in the over 65s, and was most prevalent in the 15 to 24 age group. Hello and welcome. I'm Eamon Croke. I'm a member of the Irish Dental Association's Quality and Patient Safety Committee. So, let's talk mental health. I'm delighted to be joined by Jennifer Barry. Jennifer is a student, an actor, and an advocate for mental health. Jennifer was diagnosed with depression just in the months coming up to her leaving cert. Jennifer, it's really a pleasure to welcome you. How are you doing, Jennifer?
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm very good indeed. I'm very good. We're going to talk today around your experiences in mental health, Jennifer, and the broad issues that arise from that. Maybe before we do that, you might tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you were born in Dublin, but after that, I don't know too much about you.
Yeah, no, I was born in Dublin. I'm not a Dub though. I'm a pure Cork woman, through and through. But my parents are very much involved with the Irish Dentistry Association. They both worked in dentistry themselves. So I moved to Cork when I was young. I've been living here all my life, and last year, just the year gone, I did my leaving cert. And I went to Bandon Grammar School. I have a brother and a sister. Yeah, I'm just a regular, very much a normal Scottish Irish teenager.
And you had, obviously, do you want to get the acting bit out of the way and we'll move on to the big topic?
Yeah, I never know whether to mention it like in my about me kind of stage or, but yeah, no, I played Siobhan Walsh in The Young Offenders, and I am an actor. I got the role when I was 16. I was in 4th year, and yeah, since then it's been just a mad journey.
Okay. And indeed, you were writing to your leaving cert here, if I know correctly. You were in Girls and Dolls in the September of your leaving cert.
Yeah, literally just before just as the school year started, I was not in school. I was doing an Irish national tour of the play, Lisa McGee's play, with Jamie Lee O'Donnell, who plays Michelle in Derry Girls. So yeah, it was such a good play, but yeah, I did miss out on a good bit of school Irish because of that. So,
but in that time, everything, you were in good health and everything, and then about October of that year, so very soon after the plays, you started to develop your illness. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, so I came home from the play at the end of September. And then by the end of October, I was not very well. Like I didn't know that I was sick, but I definitely wasn't myself. And I remember one night in October, I remember having a panic attack because it was getting dark outside, which sounds mad. But yeah, that was actually the kind of starting point of a very long journey with mental illness. But yeah, it was in October, just after the play, so in 6th year.
and it took some time. You were able to manage it in a sense, or maybe hide it. How did you do that? How did you manage these panic attacks and any other symptoms you were having at the time?
Yeah, so I just tried to hide it by doing that. Basically, what it felt like, it doesn't feel so much like a mask, but it feels like you're just putting on the show. It felt like I was acting all the time because I just couldn't let people know. I just didn't want to let people know that I wasn't myself, because usually I would be a very kind of open, very bubbly, kind of hyper character, and I didn't want people to know that I wasn't that. So I kind of, every day I spent pretending to be someone else, pretending to be fine. And it was like, not a zombie, but it was kind of almost like an out of body experience, because I was like I was watching myself pretend to be this person. So yeah, it was kind of just a show. It was a show. And anytime I got symptoms of anxiety or anything, I would just lock myself in my bedroom. And I lost, was it like 2.5 stone in like nearly 2 months, because I didn't eat anything. I was like constantly sick in my stomach, so I didn't eat meals with my family. I just hid in my room, and they kind of, I think they knew something was up, but they didn't know what. And it was very hard for them to approach me when I was so closed. You know, I was a closed book. I wasn't going to let on that I wasn't well. So yeah, I just, basically the only way I could hide it from my family was by hiding myself from my family, which is awful, but it was the only way I thought I could cope.
And
So yeah.
inevitably, as with any illness, it deepens and it gets worse. And then in March, so 6 months into it, things really started to escalate for you.
Yeah, it did. It did get to the point where I just didn't want to live. I did have plans to take my own life. It got to the stage where I did actually text my mom. And I told her, I didn't tell her, I was texting her, and another text message came through from my boyfriend. And it sounds like something that would happen in a movie. It sounds very cliche, but this is the way it happened. It just, something stopped me from sending that text to my mom, and it was just a moment of realization. It was kind of like, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live this way. Whereas before it was, I don't want to die, but I don't want to live. You know, whereas it was that moment of realization that I thought maybe I shouldn't give up. And yeah, so that's kind of where it got to. So I did confide in my boyfriend then. I didn't tell my parents. I only confided in my boyfriend. And then, sure enough, 2 days later, I had a massive panic attack in school. So kind of everyone found out then. I was sent to the chaplain's office, and they had to tell all the staff. They had to tell my parents. Like, it kind of very much unraveled. My whole plan of keeping it secret and stuff just unraveled in the space of like 5 or 6 hours. And I was sent to get help straight away from there. So.
And that was a seminal moment. That was the start of the journey you're on today, this road of recovering.
Yeah.
What was your immediate feeling when you got, to the point of telling your mom and dad? What was the sense you had at that point?
Well, it was like it wasn't like a weight off my shoulders or anything, but it did feel like it was a moment of both elation and deflation, because I knew that I didn't have to pretend to be this person anymore. I could finally be myself again around my own family, which was huge. But as well, I had tried to keep this show going for so long that I was like, sugar, I'm finally letting my guard down. But yeah, it was just a really it was a feeling of relief, purely to know that they knew. It does share the load. Yeah. It was like sharing the load. It was like they knew now, and they were going to help me rather than me fighting this all on my own. so it was relief.
And in terms of resources that were available to you, because certainly mental health resources are limited in Ireland, how did you find that part of your journey? Were you able to, did you head straight to your GP, or how did you manage things?
Yeah, so it was quite a long journey. I wasn't really sure what to do. I went to my GP, and she referred me to a psychologist, and I was a bit too sick for that psychologist, so they passed me on to a psychiatrist up in Cork City. All in quite a quick, in fairness to them, quite a quick time frame. It was only about a month waiting, I think. It wasn't that long. I'm very lucky to say that it wasn't that long for me. And once I was up there, they straight away, I had numerous sessions with this psychiatrist, and they did put me on medication, which I'm still on today. So, and it was just a constant, like every week I'd be meeting up with my psychiatrist, and I'm on the medication every day of my life now. So it is kind of the new normal for me.
So we'll come back to the medication, because I know you have very strong opinions. I've read your articles on this and opinions on it. So we will talk about that. But I think your experience, have you talked to any of your peers? Your experience seems to be common in the sense that there is no one journey for any that you can give across lots of people. Everybody goes on their individual journey. Have you found that with any of your friends that you've discussed this with?
Yeah, hugely. Like, I think not even, like, I wouldn't talk to my friends about it that much. Like, I obviously let them know how I'm feeling and stuff, whereas other people that have suffered with mental health, I would talk to them a lot about it and just talk about their own journeys. And yeah, it definitely is really, really different for everyone. There's no linear path at all. Everyone is different because everyone's going through their own thing. And I think people just expect you to, like, say that you're not feeling well and then suddenly be better. Like, that's not how it works. And for each person, it's very much up and down and twisty turvy. Like, there's no straight path. And it is nice to talk to, it's definitely really, really nice to talk to people that have experienced the same feelings as you and stuff. But when it comes to their journeys, that's very much their own thing. And I think people definitely need to respect that more, because you never know what's going on with the person. And even though you might know, that doesn't mean you get it, you know? You need to, I think everything is very different. It's not a linear path.
I believe there are somewhere between 300 and 500 different therapeutic offerings to help people to get back to mental health. So it does explain very much where you're coming from. Obviously, communication is a huge thing. You started your communication, you've mentioned your boyfriend, you let him into your secret, then the sense that you got of support and love from your mom and dad. Where do you see communication as you recover?
Huge. I'd say it was probably the most important thing for me, definitely. I think that there's such a kind of, like, you feel so much shame when you're first sick. Like, you feel like it's really something you just cannot talk about. You bring shame to yourself, and just hatred to yourself. But once you start talking about it, I think it's just the best therapy. I think you just get everything off your chest, and it's a release. It's a form of release, and it's so important. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to talk. Like, if anyone feels down or sad or not themselves, talking is just the best thing you can do, because by talking you're sharing the load, and it just isn't as heavy. I definitely think talking was probably the most important thing I did, and it was probably the best thing I've done.
And communication is a two-way thing, because you need a good listener. What are the characteristics? What would you look in somebody that you know would be, I can chat to this person, other than maybe that they've shared some common experience with you? For somebody in general, your friends, some will be better than others perhaps. and you don't have to name names, obviously.
I won't go naming anyone.
But what sort of characteristics make a good listener for you?
Yeah, well, I think that someone that, so first of all, it's always very important to let the person say everything they have to say. Like for me, I think when someone lets me say my whole story, or whatever I'm talking to them about, and then asks questions, because by asking questions, you're getting the person to open up more, and maybe even helping the person realizing that they didn't know themselves. So I think that's really, really important, is to ask questions, not nosy questions, or not be too, pestering or ask too many questions, but just to help the person feel like they are getting everything off their chest, and that they know that it's going somewhere safe as well. A good listener as well is someone that doesn't take all the information in and then go spit it out somewhere else. That's not a good listener. That's just a tattletale kind of person. But yeah, no, definitely someone that asks questions, someone that retains the information and remembers it for the next time. And just someone that doesn't kind of butt in with that kind of, you could say like, oh, I'm having a really bad day today, and instead of being like, oh, what's up, do you want to talk about it, they'd be like, oh yeah, no, same, I had a horrible day, like it was terrible, like I really didn't enjoy it. That's not listening. That's not listening at all. That's not communication. So yeah, I feel like I'm rambling a bit, but I feel like, going back to the question thing, I think that is really important, and just retaining the information and remembering it for the next time.
So really you need somebody who in many ways can be on the same page as you at that moment in time. Obviously confidentiality is hugely important to you, and empathy, somebody that can empathize rather than saying that they understand, they just are there to listen.
Yeah, you worded it much better than I did, but yes.
In terms then, relationships are obviously very important in terms of your recovery. So again, what sort of issues are around relationships that work positively for you?
Yeah, I suppose when you're ill, I think relationships can be hugely affected. But to look at it in a positive light, I think that relationships almost grow stronger like on the other side of things. Like once you come through the worst of it, by building a relationship with yourself, that's the first most important thing, is to build a relationship with yourself. Give yourself the self-love that you deserve. Once you have that self-love, I think it really does help you to build relationships with other people. Then I think my family were hugely, really, really important, and obviously still are, but like when I was ill, they were just unbelievable. Like they all tried to build a relationship. I think that people as well in daily lives, I think we can forget we forget how important relationships are. I think we forget how sacred, to use that kind of word, sacred they are, and how important they are in our own lives. But with mental illness, I think that, yeah, I think you build relationships with people and they come out more important in the end. But yeah, especially for recovery, I think it is really important as well, just to have that kind of connection with the person.
And you mentioned something, of course, that it must start with self-love, because again, obviously in depression, self-esteem goes through the floor. All of us have a propensity towards listening to bad news. And, in depression, we turn it possibly on top of ourselves. I'm no expert, but this is my understanding. So feel free to chop me at the knees if you wish to on this one. But so how did you set about building your self-esteem, your self-love? What are there any things that you went about to do that?
Yeah, like my self-esteem was literally at zero. To kind of build myself up again, two things I found really, really good were exercise and as well healthy eating and all that kind of stuff. I think they were really important for building my own self-love again and self-esteem. You know, by doing them, I just felt that I was really taking care of myself and I was putting my best interest at heart. And also as well, I could see my body changing, which was nice, because you hate yourself on the outside as much as the inside, you know. So that was really, really nice. As well, you know, I would try to kind of stay away from too much negativity, like surrounding people. You know, I kind of just didn't get involved with anything negative, because I knew that I would start questioning myself and kind of bringing myself down then. But yeah, for me, the best thing I did was definitely exercise and eat healthily. I think they are really important, and positive affirmations as well. Reading just little books about positivity and stuff were really helpful.
And tell me, I read somewhere you play a bit of camogie.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna clear this up. When I say I play camogie, I'm literally the worst player in the world. Like,
Doesn't matter.
probably no. Really now, really, I am not. I'm not, like, I'm waiting for my call from the Cork camogie team. Yes, we'll just put it that way. But yeah, no, like, that's it as well. Like, exercising, but playing team sports as well. Oh my god, I love playing camogie with the girls. Like, it's just so much fun, and it's a bit of crack, you know, and it just gives you a chance to kind of relax and loosen up and just enjoy an activity with people your own age. Like, yeah, no, it was great. It's great. I love it.
And were you aware, you play with a team, obviously?
Yeah, Kilbritton.
Yeah. Were you aware of the GAA mental health charter? Was that ever brought to your attention?
No,
No.
never.
There's a bit of work for the GAA maybe to do. Okay.
Yeah.
You can bring it to their attention.
Look at.
It's an excellent charter. And they also do a thing called Self-Talk, which is a half-day course. But so there are things even within sports. I presume other sports have these charters as well, Jennifer. So in terms of where you are today, you know, accentuate the positive and diminish the negative. What sort of things do you do? Because you are in the public eye. And, you know, as dentists, I can tell you if we get a complaint, it really does batter us. And, you know, so how do you protect? What would you advise? Because my view of social media is very much dinosaurial, but during the COVID thing, I saw huge tensions, huge anxieties on it, and it was perpetuating. So how do you protect you, and what advice would you give to me to protect myself on social media?
Yeah. I suppose the advice that I would give myself would be the same advice to give you. It's the same for everyone. Try to stay away from negative media. Just try to stay away from nasty comments. Don't go out of your way to look at them. And this is something I need to kind of tell myself again, because I'm a devil for trying to find nasty comments about myself just to see what people are saying, you know. Just really definitely have on social media, you can put time limits. So you can say, like, Instagram for 30 minutes a day, Twitter for 30 minutes a day, Snapchat for 30 minutes, Facebook, you know, etc. I think those limits are really, really good, because it stops you from spending too much time on it, but also allows you to see how much time you've been spending on it and how invested we can get in it. So I would definitely recommend the time limits. As well, you can also filter out certain words on social media. Like, if you didn't want to see, say if you were someone with quite bad anxiety at the moment, and COVID-19 was a trigger, you could, on Twitter or Facebook, you can go to a word filter and you could put in COVID-19, and then no posts to do with COVID-19 or comments to do with COVID-19 will come up in your timeline. So that hides it. So the time limit and the filters are very, very good. And then just for yourself, or not just for yourself, but just for your own peace of mind, I suppose, I think that just putting away the phone is the best thing you can do. It's the age old kind of method, but it does work. You don't have to look at the comments if you just put away your phone. So yeah.
What makes you happy?
What makes me happy? See, this is a very hard question because it's actually it's one you never think about, is it? What makes me happy? I suppose my friends, my family, my boyfriend, music, playing camogie, going to the gym. I love going to the gym. ABBA, I love ABBA, and as well just having the crack. Yeah, just having the crack with anyone, doesn't matter who. I think I'm a very sociable person, and that's something that I'm still building back up. You know, because when I was sick, it was false. It was really false, but now it's me again, living my life, and that's class. So yeah, I'd say having the crack with my friends, my family.
Good. And obviously part of living your life now is the role in advocacy that you've taken on. I do know, because I've read about some of your thoughts on this. I know the stigma around medication, and I said we'd come back to that. It's something that's out in the public. You know, Lady Gaga talks about it. Sally Myers, whatever her name is.
Miley Cyrus.
Miley Cyrus. I'm showing my age, Jennifer, sorry. You know, they've talked about taking medicines, and people like Adele and J.K. Rowling's have talked about their depression, and many, many others. Where are your experiences with this challenging the stigma?
Yeah, at the start, I was very scared to speak up about it. In terms of medication, is it that we're talking about, or just in general medication? Yeah, at the start I was a victim of the stigma. You know, I didn't want to take my medication at all. It was the last thing I wanted to do, was to go on medication, because I thought it was going to turn me into a zombie. Apparently that's what it did. But once I actually took it and gave it its course, that's not the case at all, and it's actually helping me feel better. I think people have created this horrific idea that it makes you into this kind of dead person walking, and that it's like a really bad thing to do. I think people have always made it like, oh, if you take medication, you haven't tried anything else, and you're lazy. It's like you're just turning to medication like a druggie, whereas that's not the case at all. It's if you had cancer, you wouldn't just talk it out. You know, sometimes you need treatments. You do need treatments. Same way as if you broke your leg, you wouldn't walk around on your leg and just talk about it. You get a cast. It's the exact same thing with medication, and I think that it does. And first of all, it doesn't make you a zombie. Like, I can guarantee now, you're looking at me, I don't think I look like a zombie, but I hope I don't. But yeah, it's just a really horrific stigma that's come about, and it's really wrong, because I think it's preventing people from getting the actual proper help that they need. So if your psychiatrist or psychologist or GP does recommend medication to you, yes, try other resources first, because it can take an effect on like your stomach, and like you do need to sleep quite a bit at the start. But don't be afraid to take it, because it will help you if it's the correct one for you. And if it doesn't work, that's okay. There's other ways. There's loads of, as you said, is it 300 to 500 different? Okay. So like, there's still like 499 other options you can try. Like, I think it's really bad that a stigma has been created around it, but it's something I'm trying to crack. So.
And again, you are very much a promoter of talking to people. This is part of your advocacy. And we've chatted about that. But another point that you bring up is the fact that anybody can suffer from depression, and things that the report that I mentioned earlier, Healthy Ireland, actually showed that it's across all socioeconomic groups, it's across all ages. We have it when we're young, we can have it when we're older.
Yeah.
And if you'd like to just give me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think I didn't even think about this. Like, showing the way everyone always says, oh, it's okay not to be okay. I was someone that said that as well, not even thinking about what it actually meant. And it didn't occur to me until it happened to myself, like until I myself was diagnosed with depression. It can happen to anyone. Like, I'm the last person I ever thought would feel this way, and here I am. And you forget that everyone has feelings, everyone has emotions, everyone is susceptible to it, you know. There's all potential in everyone that you can develop a mental illness. And I think that people seem to forget that. People only think it's people of a certain age, of a certain gender, of a certain background, of a certain ethnicity. Like it really is anyone. And even as you said, even in the statistics there, like we looked at it earlier, and like men in the 65 plus age category, they were the highest for males. Like, that's mad. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not even mad, but it just shows that, like, you would never think it, but it is true. I really think that it can happen to anyone, and it can happen to anyone, and that's why it's really, really important to, as again bringing it back to talking, I think that's why it's really, really important to make sure that you talk, and to make sure that you talk to people of all ages and all genders, whatever. Like, I think it can happen to anyone, and I think you forget that. I think we all forget that, and it's really important to remember that, and it's just really important to remember to be kind to absolutely everyone, because you never know what's going on.
I would agree with you. I think life changes every day, and we have different pressures and we have different capacities, and COVID-19 is a classical example of how life out of the blue can change for everybody, not just
and even for older people, because they've had to cocoon, you know, like their mental health must be really not great at the moment. So,
and what's your advice on supporting people that may be ill or may not quite be ill, but are suffering from distress, psychological distress, to use a phrase? What would be your advice?
Just be a listening ear, be a supportive shoulder. If action is needed, if you need to take action, take action, but otherwise don't do anything that will upset the person too much. You know, like, don't take unnecessary action or anything. I think don't try and make it about you. You know, I think really just let the person as a whole let you know how they're feeling. I just think being a listening ear, and words of support are really, really important as well. Not just like, oh, you'll be grand, it's fine, don't worry, you'll be grand tomorrow. Like, be like, I know you feel this way, it is going to get better, please believe me, we all love you, we're all here for you. Those words of support can mean the world of difference. So,
and again, something obviously with depression, it needs to be diagnosed, but it clearly doesn't define the person. You are a shining example of that, Jennifer. The future, I know you're going to carry on your advocacy. You have thoughts around the cracking stigmas type thing that you're going to approach. Would you like to just tell us a little about that, and then I'll let you on with your day?
So I suppose, I love thinking about the future. Now, I used to hate it, but now I love it. I'm going to go to college. I still have my agents. I'm still acting. As well, I'm going to become a personal trainer. As well, Cracking Stigmas is my new podcast that I'm going to be starting. And it's just going to be talking about everyday life with well-known people in, you know, television, film, but as well everyday people that just have a story to tell. I think that the more we talk about life, the easier it can be for people. So I want, and as well, the stigma surrounding life, they need to be cracked. But there should be a bit of crack in everything as well. So that's why Cracking Stigmas is the name.
Well, I wish you the very, very best in college. Do enjoy it. I wish you every success. One of the things that often when we read about depression, we read about greys and dark, and Winston Churchill used to talk about the black dog, but he also talked about the colours that were in his life when the black dog wasn't on his back. And I think there's a light that emanates from you that says you're well on your way. And I wish you every success. I wish you health, and I wish you contentment, and take care of yourself. And thank you. You may find that some of the topics we have talked about affect you. Clearly, it is important you talk to somebody. Here are some people that are very experienced and very skilled in the help they can provide you. But maybe the first thing is to reach out to somebody that loves you. Share your thoughts with them, that you're not feeling well, that you're feeling down. And maybe that will be the first step on your road to recovering. I wish you well. Take care.